Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It is good to have you. I'm here with Chet Doxas, and Rémi Leblanc. And I'm actually really glad to have you guys here for our first podcast.
I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and we had a few CDs. One of them was Thelonious Monk, and it was a record called Underground. I remember the cover of it. It's really strange if you ever see it. He's in a bunker, like a bomb shelter. Have you seen this?
Yeah, of course.
And he's got like grenades on his chest, and there's like a cow in the corner. It's a really odd-looking thing, especially when I was that age. But we used to listen to that record all the time, and I think still to this day I have like a really unique connection with Thelonious Monk's music because it was some of the first music that I listened to. Like, we also had, I should add, Whitney Houston. So I had to balance it out.
I can see that.
Yeah. And what was the other one? James Taylor's Greatest Hits. I still love that record.
That's a great record.
Yeah. And that might have been it. We had like 4 or 5 CDs. If there's another one that comes to mind, I'll think about it. But I remember those Ella and Louie records, hearing Oscar Peterson's trio with Ray Brown. Like when you're a kid, you hear with that. Like I think there's things that you immediately respond to when you're a kid that sometimes, if you're not careful, you can lose sight of, which I have done along the way, and then you kind of reconnect with these records.
I started playing, I was 10 or 11. I was learning pretty quickly, because I really liked it. There's a few people that noticed that I was making good progress. So the music teacher at the school where I was going at the time, my junior high school, got me to play in the school jazz band. So then I learned a lot about music by doing that. I learned how to read music and play in an ensemble and all that. It started pretty young. Every week he would make me tapes of like weather recordings that Jaco played on.
Jaco Pastorius being
Jaco Pastorius,
the king, the father of electric fretless bass in the jazz genre.
Yeah, the great innovator of the black market.
Why jazz?
I really believe in the live aspect of the music, and I just love the way this music sounds and what it means to me, and it becomes very concrete, and it's a way that kind of challenges me. When I hear really great musicians that I look up to, or really strong bands, they have a very uniform sound that I can almost like, it's almost tangible, you know? You can almost grab hold of them.
I think after a while, when I started listening to more like improvisation, I got more into listening to music, a lot more than just listening to bass lines and listening to bass. So.
I think that formal education was really, when I look back on it, really immerses you in a musical environment. Like you can't really get anywhere else except, let's say, New York City. I think. So all of a sudden, for 4 years, you're surrounded by people that want to do the same thing as you, and interested in sounding as good as they can on their instrument in this particular style of music that they're teaching. The music that they were teaching at the school that I went to, at McGill, it was really quote unquote what we called straight ahead jazz or bebop, which has been somewhat codified to be able to teach. That you can teach that there's certain scales that go with this chord and they sound right. But if you were to sit down and talk to Charlie Parker about it, he wouldn't teach it the same way, or he wouldn't probably wouldn't think about it the same way. So, I'm just beginning to come to a point now where I really tried to put my own spin on those things. It was a lot of information in very few, in like a short amount of time. So that's also cool too. But I think the most important thing was like just to be surrounded by all those musicians.
It's worth it to go to music school if you're really, really interested and willing to work hard at it.
This music, I think, survives and needs people with fresh, innovative voices. I think that's the most important thing to be a successful professional musician, especially in our field, is really to have something, whether it's not like a fully formed, unique sound, to to know that people are striving for that is a very important thing to me. Like a lot of saxophonists, my first big influence was Charlie Parker. He probably made me want to play the saxophone. I heard Coltrane first and I really loved it. It was a love supreme. And then I discovered Stan Getz, who was really like a big influence on me. The saxophone's role in a small group setting, like a quartet, we are one of the main solo voices in the group. So that means we're playing the melody, we're playing solos, and the rest of the band is playing behind us all the time. So we're kind of featured in that setting. When we are either delivering the theme of the tune or soloing, we're trying to incorporate everything that's going on around us, anything the piano player, the drum, or the bass are playing under us or with us, to really try to deliver like a final outcome of what's going on around us. There's an old saying, like, tell a story when you play a solo. To me, what that means is really give the solo a very clear shape. You know, I can't necessarily enforce a shape of the solo, because the musicians around me are going to be able to tell that I'm doing that, and they're not going to come on board as well as then if I were to listen to what's going on around me and then try to create a clear picture. So that's why sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The challenge is to try to really, listen around you and be like, okay, well, maybe this time I'm going to start off at the climax of a solo and build it all the way down. If I can convey that to Mrs. Smith, this is her second jazz concert, and the first one she thinks she saw was Kenny G, then if she can actually get that point across and be like, wow, this person just took me from here all the way to here, and I was there the whole time. Thank you. Thanks for this moment. Overall, it should come out sounding like a real journey. In the modern jazz world, very few people play what we call standards anymore. Like, anyone like Sonny Rollins was really famous for, although he's a great composer, the majority of his repertoire came from the Great American Songbook, right, or the Broadway melodies.
I have a tendency to write long tunes. I often have like 3 or 4 pages in a lot of different sections. And before I bring it, when I make the chart, when I write the tune, I usually hear specific elements in each part of the tune, a specific piano part or a groove or the dynamics. These tunes to the group that played at the Segal Centre a few weeks ago, I wasn't happy with how they sounded, because I didn't really realize it at the moment, but they didn't sound exactly like I was hearing them, so I wasn't happy with the tunes. And after a while, I just realized that if you get improvisers and creative musicians and musicians with like strong musical personalities to play your music, you can never expect it for them to play your music exactly how you hear it. So there has to be like a marge, where like you have to have you have to understand there's always going to be like a compromise between what you hear and what it's going to sound like when the group plays it. Well, I think it's a fantastic initiative to see something, because especially local musicians, the local musicians here don't rarely get the chance to play in concert settings. It's always in clubs or restaurants. So I think it's great that the Segal Centre decided to invest in something like that. I think it's great for the musical community, the artistic community.
It can only be a good thing, I think.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing about it is that they put the Segal Centre put their confidence in local musicians.
Because
that's a very admirable thing in this way.
That's for sure. Because you could fundraise let's get $50,000 and let's bring Keith Jarrett to the Segal Centre. Okay, that would be great. Everyone would come. You'd sell out the whole place. You could sell it out for a week straight. But I think a more admirable, unique thing is like what you've done this year to really showcase local artists and give the confidence, like you said, behind the local jazz scene. It's great.